The evening sky burned with shades of red and gold, the last light of the sun sinking behind jagged cliffs. The wind carried a sharp bite, whispering over the lonely valley below. Far from home, the human traveler walked carefully over the rocky ground. His name was Daniel, and he had been stranded on this strange world for 3 days. Food was short, water even less, but the silence of the place pressed on him more than hunger. Daniel had felt eyes on him all day. Sometimes the wind would shift, and a shadow seemed to move along the cliffs. He tried to tell himself it was his imagination, but deep inside, he knew he was not alone. The alien sky was too vast, too empty, and yet something hid in it, waiting. The sound came suddenly, a rush like thunder. Daniel looked up, and his heart froze. A massive shadow cut across the fading light. Its wings stretched wider than any bird on earth, feathers glinting like steel under the sun's last fire. The creature circled once, twice, then dove with frightening speed. Daniel tried to run, but the ground was broken and uneven. His boots slipped on loose stone. He fell to his knees as the shadow grew larger. The air roared around him, and then claws closed around his arms and chest. He was lifted from the ground in one powerful motion. The world dropped away beneath him. He screamed, but the wind tore his voice apart. His stomach turned as the ground shrank into a blur of green and gray. He kicked, fought, but the grip was iron. Only then did he see her face. The creature was no beast. She was a woman, though not human. Her skin shone pale silver in the fading light. Her hair streamed like black silk in the wind. Her eyes, sharp and golden, locked onto his with strange intensity. She had wings, vast and powerful, every beat shaking the air. Her talons, curved and deadly, held him without mercy. Yet her gaze was not cruel. It was claiming, possessive, as if she had found something precious. Daniel's heart pounded. Fear told him to struggle, to fight with every ounce of strength. But another part of him froze, lost in her piercing stare. She was not killing him. He realized with a chill that made his skin crawl. She was taking him. The wind howled past his ears. The valley vanished as cliffs and peaks rushed upward. She flew higher, carrying him as if he weighed nothing. His lungs burned with the cold air. His mind spun with disbelief. Why? The word escaped his lips, swallowed by the rushing wind. Her eyes narrowed, and her mouth curved into something that was not quite a smile, not quite a snarl. He felt her talons tighten slightly, enough to remind him that he was helpless. The mountains rose sharp around them, sheer walls of stone clawing at the sky. She climbed higher still, wings beating strong and sure, until the valley below was nothing but a shadow. Daniel's breath caught as he realized how far he had been taken. One slip, one release, and he would fall to his death. But she did not release him. Her grip was steady, her wings endless in strength. Her golden eyes never left him, as though she feared he might vanish if she blinked. He tried to shout again, to demand answers, but his throat was dry. His words broke into the night air and vanished. The only sound was the endless beating of wings. As the first stars began to shine above, she slowed, her flight turning from fierce to steady. Daniel's body trembled, his mind racing. He had been caught like prey, yet treated like treasure. He could not understand. At last, she spoke. Her voice was low, rough with the wind, yet it cut through the night like fire. "You are mine," she said. The words chilled him deeper than the cold air. Claimed, not killed. Taken, not destroyed. He looked at her, at those fierce golden eyes, and realized with dread that she meant every word. And as the stars blazed brighter above them, Daniel knew his life was no longer his own. He had been snatched into the sky, and the winged alien woman who carried him had claimed him in midair. The night wind cut across Daniel's face as the winged woman carried him higher into the mountain range. His body shook from cold and fear, but his mind was fixed on her golden eyes. They never wavered, never looked away. She flew with purpose, as if she had done this many times before, as if claiming him was not an accident, but a choice. Her wings beat powerfully, carrying them to a towering cliff. The rock face glowed faintly under the light of 2 moons. Daniel felt his stomach twist as she angled her wings and landed smoothly on a narrow stone ledge. She lowered him, not gently, but carefully enough to keep him alive. When her talons released his chest, His legs buckled, and he collapsed to the ground. Daniel gasped for air, pressing his palms against the cold stone. He looked up, and his heart sank. The ledge was only the edge of something greater. A vast nest of interwoven branches and bones stretched across the cliffside, suspended over endless darkness. It was both a home and a prison. Dozens of figures moved within it, their wings rustling like whispers in the dark. The woman stepped forward, her wings folding close. She stood taller than Daniel had expected, her frame lean and strong. Her silver skin gleamed faintly, and the black strands of her hair shifted in the wind. The other winged figures turned toward her, their eyes, glowing faintly in the moonlight, fixed on Daniel with sharp suspicion. Whispers spread among them, harsh sounds carried on the night air. Daniel could not understand their language, but their tone was clear. They did not welcome him. They saw him as an intruder, a danger, perhaps even prey. The woman raised one hand, her claws catching the moonlight. The whispers silenced. Her wings opened slightly as she spoke in their language, each word cut with force and certainty. The crowd shifted uneasily. Some hissed, others bowed their heads, but their eyes never left Daniel. He took a step back, his heels scraping the edge of the ledge. The drop below pulled at his stomach. The realization hit him. There was no escape. The nest was thousands of feet above the valley. Even if he found a way to climb down, the fall would kill him. His heart pounded. The woman turned to him at last. Her golden eyes glowed brighter than the moon's. She pointed a clawed finger at his chest and spoke slowly. Her accent was rough, but her words were clear enough. "You are mine," she said again. Daniel shook his head, his voice breaking. "No, I don't belong to anyone." Her eyes narrowed, her wings twitched, as if she was ready to snatch him again. But instead of anger, she tilted her head, studying him. Her lips moved in words he did not know. Then she said, "Not slave, not prey mine." Confusion knotted in Daniel's chest. He wanted to shout at her, to demand answers, but the crowd around them pressed closer. He felt their hatred, their distrust. He could sense they wanted her to cast him from the ledge, to let him fall and be forgotten. But she spread her wings wide, blocking them from him. The gesture was protective, like a shield. The murmurs grew louder, but none dared to challenge her. Daniel realized then that she had power among them. Her claim on him was not only personal, it was defiance. He stepped back again, gripping a jagged rock for balance. His voice cracked. "Why me? Why did you take me?" She stared at him for a long moment, then spoke a single word, "Survive." The meaning was unclear, but her tone sent chills down his spine. Whatever her reason, it was not simple, not random. She needed him for something important. The night stretched on, and Daniel was left in the alien nest, surrounded by sharp eyes and sharper claws. The woman never let him out of her sight. She stayed near, standing tall, her wings folded but ready. As the moons climbed higher, Daniel realized one thing with dreadful certainty. He was no longer stranded on a strange world. He was trapped in the heart of a people who saw him as a threat. His only shield was the woman who had stolen him from the sky. And though she said he was hers, he did not yet know if that meant safety or a fate worse than death. The cold night stretched long over the mountain nest. Daniel had not slept. His body trembled from exhaustion, but his mind refused to rest. Around him, the winged people moved like shadows, whispering in their harsh language. Their glowing eyes never left him. He was an outsider, a stranger, and no matter how much the winged woman shielded him, he knew the others wanted him gone. At dawn, the nest came alive with noise. Wings spread wide as dozens took flight. Their calls echoed across the cliffs. Daniel stepped to the edge and stared down. The valley below was so far away that the rivers looked like silver threads. His heart thumped. Escape was impossible. The cliffs stretched endless, and the only way down was through the air. His stomach twisted as he imagined falling. The winged woman approached him. Her golden eyes scanned his face. She carried herself with the same proud strength as before. Daniel tensed as she pointed to his chest again, repeating her words, "You are mine." He clenched his fists, anger rising. "I don't belong to you," he snapped. His voice carried across the nest. Several of the winged people hissed at the sound. Their wings flared, claws scraping against the stone. The woman raised her hand sharply, silencing them. Her gaze stayed fixed on him, steady and unblinking. Daniel's voice shook, but he forced the words out. I am not your prey. I am not your slave. I am human. I make my own choices. The winged woman tilted her head, studying him with an expression he could not read. Her wings twitched as if she was weighing his defiance. For a moment, Daniel thought she might cast him from the ledge, end it all with a single push. But instead she stepped closer. Her shadow fell over him, her golden eyes burning like fire. You fight, she said simply. Her accent cut the word into sharp pieces. Good. Daniel blinked, unsure if he had understood. She reached out, her clawed hand brushing against his chest, not in attack, but in testing. Strong, she murmured. Then she looked toward the sky, where more winged figures circled above. Her jaw tightened. Need. The word chilled Daniel. It was the same tone she had used before, the same weight. She needed him, but for what? He could not guess. Determined to break free, Daniel made his move. While her attention flicked toward the others, he darted across the nest. His boots scraped against the woven branches. The structure shook under his weight. He ignored the cries that followed, his eyes fixed on the edge. If he could climb down, if he could even find a narrow ledge, maybe there was a chance. His hands gripped the rough rock. He swung his leg over, testing the cliffside. But as he leaned forward, the dizzying drop pulled at him. His stomach lurched, his body froze. The wind roared past him, threatening to drag him into the abyss. His hands slipped, and panic surged through his chest. Suddenly, claws wrapped around his arm, pulling him back with terrifying strength. He crashed onto the nest floor, gasping for air. The winged woman loomed over him, her wings spread wide, golden eyes blazing. She snarled a single word. Fool. Daniel pushed himself up, anger burning away his fear. You can't keep me here, he shouted. His voice cracked, but did not break. I will not be your prisoner. Her face hardened. Her people closed in, their wings rustling like a storm. But once again, she blocked them, standing tall between Daniel and the others. Her voice rang out, sharp and commanding. The others fell silent, though their eyes glowed with fury. She turned back to him. Her gaze softened slightly, though her claws still trembled with restraint. Not prisoner, she said. Chosen. The word struck Daniel like a blade. He shook his head. Chosen for what? Her lips pressed into a thin line. For a moment, she seemed uncertain, as if revealing too much could bring danger even to herself. Then she leaned close, her whisper hot against his ear. War. Daniel's breath caught. Her people wanted him dead, yet she risked everything to keep him alive. She had stolen him from the ground not to own him, but to use him. His heart pounded as the truth sank in. He was no longer just a stranded traveler. He was part of something larger, something that could destroy him or make him more than human. And as the morning light poured over the mountains, Daniel realized he had only one choice. If he wanted to survive, he would have to face whatever she meant by war. The morning sun spread golden light across the jagged peaks. Daniel stood at the edge of the vast nest, his eyes on the horizon. He could not shake the woman's last word. War. The sound of it echoed in his head, sharp and heavy. He had come to this alien world by accident, but now he was tangled in something he did not understand. The winged woman stood close by, her shadow falling over him. Her golden eyes followed his every move. She did not chain him, she did not cage him, but her presence was a prison all the same. The other winged ones whispered whenever they passed him, their stares cut deep, filled with hatred and suspicion. Daniel turned on her, frustration boiling. Tell me what you want, he said, his voice cracked. Why am I here? Why me? She tilted her head, her black hair sweeping across her silver skin. For a long time she said nothing, only stared at him with those fierce eyes. At last she spoke, her words slow and broken. Enemy, ground beasts, they poison, they kill, my people die. Her wings shifted, feathers rustling. She looked toward the valley below, where the forest stretched dark and endless. We fight. Always fight. Many dead. She placed a clawed hand against her chest, then pointed at him. You, different, heart strong, blood strong, cannot break. Daniel frowned, his confusion deepening. What are you talking about? He asked. I'm only human. Her wings spread slightly, her face set with certainty. Human, strong, Legends say, human not fall to beast poison, human live when others die. The words sank into Daniel like stones. They believed he was immune to whatever weapon their enemies used. That was why she had taken him, not as prey, not as a pet, but as a chance to save her people. Daniel shook his head. You don't know that. I don't even know if it's true. Her gaze burned brighter. I know, she said simply. I saw you touched poison ground. You still breathe. You live. Memories flashed in Daniel's mind. He remembered falling near a strange patch of earth days ago. The air had been sharp, thick with a smell like acid. His throat had burned, his vision had blurred, but he had stumbled away alive. Perhaps others would have died. Perhaps that was the proof she spoke of. Daniel clenched his fists. So you risked my life, dragged me into the sky, all because of some belief. Her jaw tightened, her wings trembled with emotion. Not belief, she growled, hope. The words silenced him. Her golden eyes shone with something deeper than pride, deeper than possession. It was desperation. She was willing to defy her people, to claim him as hers, because she believed he might turn the tide of a war they were losing. The cries of the winged people broke the moment. Shadows passed overhead as scouts returned to the nest. Their calls echoed sharp and urgent. The crowd stirred, wings spreading in alarm. The woman stiffened, her eyes narrowing. She turned to Daniel, her voice low and harsh. They come. Who? He asked, his stomach knotting. Ground beasts, she said, her wings snapping open. Raiders. The nest shook as warriors leapt into the air. Their wings beat furiously, weapons glinting in their claws. The sound of horns rose from the cliffs. The sky filled with motion, shadows diving and climbing. Daniel's heart hammered. He was no soldier, no warrior, but now he stood in the heart of an alien fortress under attack. He looked at the woman. She was already armed, her talons flexing, her wings ready for battle. Her eyes burned with fire. You stay, she commanded, pointing at him. Safe. But Daniel shook his head. His voice was steady even as fear clawed at him. I can't hide. If your people fight, I fight too. Her eyes widened, surprise flashing across her face. For a moment she looked at him not as a possession, but as something else, an equal. Then she gave a sharp nod. Stay close. The air erupted with battle cries as the first enemy shapes rose from the valley. They were monstrous, twisted creatures with leathery wings and jagged limbs. Their roars shook the mountains. Daniel felt the ground vibrate beneath him, his body tensed, his mind screaming that this was madness. And yet, as the winged woman launched herself into the air with a single powerful beat of her wings, Daniel found himself stepping forward. His fear was still there, but so was something else, a spark, a fire. If this was the war she had spoken of, then he would face it. The sky erupted with chaos. Screams and roars tore through the cold air as the winged warriors launched from the nest. Their silver wings glistened in the sunlight, clashing against the dark, leathery wings of the raiders. The sound of claws striking claws echoed like thunder. Daniel stood frozen on the cliff's edge, his heart pounding as shadows collided above. The winged woman soared into the battle with fierce speed. Her wings cut the air, her golden eyes locked on her prey. She struck an enemy mid-flight, her talons sinking into its flesh. The beast shrieked, twisting and clawing, but she ripped free, leaving it tumbling toward the valley below. Daniel's breath caught. He had never seen such brutal grace. She was a predator of the skies, every movement precise, deadly, yet she was outnumbered. Dozens of dark-winged raiders swarmed toward the nest. Their roars shook the mountains. The other winged people fought desperately. Some clashed in pairs. Others dove from above to strike with speed. The air was filled with feathers, blood, and the metallic clash of weapons. Daniel's chest tightened. He wanted to hide, but he could not. Not while the woman who had claimed him risked her life. He grabbed a broken spear lying near the nest. Its shaft was rough, its tip cracked, but it was better than empty hands. His mind screamed that he had no wings, no power here, but his body moved anyway. A shadow fell over him. Daniel looked up. A raider dived straight toward the ledge, its claws stretched wide. Its mouth opened in a screech that rattled his bones. Without thinking, Daniel braced the spear and thrust upward. The creature slammed into it, the shaft shuddering in his hands. The tip pierced its chest, and with a violent cry, the beast twisted and fell, dragging the broken weapon into the abyss. Daniel stumbled back, gasping. His arms shook, his hands burned. He had survived one strike, but more shadows circled above. He realized the raiders were not only here to kill the winged people, they were after the nest itself. The winged woman wheeled through the air, striking again and again. Her golden eyes flicked toward Daniel. She saw him alive, weaponless but still standing. Her wings flared wide as she cut through the enemy. Her claws tore another raider apart before it could dive toward him. Daniel's heart pounded with something new, not only fear, but fire. He refused to be helpless. He spotted loose stones near the edge, jagged and heavy. He picked them up and hurled them at the raiders diving for the nest. The first stone missed, but the second struck a creature in the wing. It shrieked and spiraled down, crashing into the cliffs below. The winged warriors roared their approval, their voices rising above the storm of battle. For the first time, Daniel felt something strange. Acceptance. They saw he was fighting, not cowering. He was part of this struggle now. But the battle was far from over. A massive raider, larger than the rest, broke through the sky. Its wings were torn, its body scarred, but its strength was terrifying. It locked its black eyes on the winged woman. She dove at it, talons flashing, but the beast caught her mid-strike. Its claws wrapped around her, dragging her into a deadly spin. Daniel's blood ran cold. He saw her struggling, her wings beating wildly, but the beast held her tight. It opened its jaws, ready to tear into her. "No," Daniel shouted. His voice ripped through the chaos. His legs moved before his mind could stop them. He ran to the edge, grabbed another stone, larger this time. His hands shook, his heart thundered, but he hurled it with all his strength. The stone struck the raider's head. The beast shrieked, its grip loosening. The woman broke free, spinning through the air. Her wings snapped wide, and she caught herself before she could fall. Their eyes met across the battlefield. For one heartbeat, the golden fire in her gaze softened. She had saved him, and now he had saved her. Rage burned in her wings as she dived at the wounded beast. Her talons tore across its chest. She struck again and again until the raider screamed and plummeted into the abyss. The battle raged on, but the tide began to turn. The winged people rallied with renewed strength, inspired by her fury, and perhaps by the sight of the human who had fought beside them. They drove the raiders back, one by one. The dark-winged creatures broke and fled, their cries fading into the distance. Silence fell over the mountains. The air was heavy with the scent of blood and smoke. Feathers drifted in the wind. The nest shook with the weight of the survivors landing. Their wings folded, their eyes wide with exhaustion. Daniel collapsed to his knees, his chest heaving. His arms ached, his hands raw. But he was alive, more than alive. He had fought. The winged people stared at him, their expressions no longer filled with only hate. Some looked at him with respect, others with uncertainty. But none dared to call him weak. The winged woman landed before him, her golden eyes fierce. Her chest rose and fell with heavy breaths. She stepped closer, her shadow wrapping around him. Her voice was low, but every word struck like thunder. "You fight," she said. "Not prey, not slave, warrior." Daniel met her gaze. His voice trembled but carried truth. "I fight because I had to, because I will not die here." Her lips curved, not quite a smile, but close. "Good," she whispered, then louder, for all her people to hear. "He fights with us." The crowd stirred. Their whispers rose like wind. Daniel stood taller. Despite the ache in his body, for the first time, he felt he was more than just a prisoner. He had proven himself, not only to her, but to them all. And as the sun climbed higher above the mountains, Daniel realized something else. He was no longer fighting only to survive. He was fighting for her, for the strange bond forming between them, for the war that was no longer theirs alone, but his as well. The battle had ended, but the echoes of war still clung to the mountains. The cries of the fallen drifted on the cold wind. Blood stained the woven branches of the nest. Feathers lay scattered like ash. Daniel stood among the survivors, his body weak, his heart still racing. The winged people moved with silent grief, tending to the wounded, gathering the dead. The winged woman stood apart from them, her golden eyes fixed on the horizon. Her wings trembled faintly, not from weakness, but from the weight of what had passed. She had fought fiercely, but she had also nearly fallen. If not for Daniel's stone, she might have been crushed in the grip of the raider. Daniel walked toward her slowly. His legs ached, his arms burned, but his voice was steady. "You almost died," he said. His words carried more worry than he expected. She turned to him, her eyes sharp. "I live," she replied. The word was simple, final, yet behind her fierce tone, he saw a flicker of something else, something softer. Daniel shook his head. "You can't fight them alone." Her gaze lingered on him. For a long moment she said nothing. Her wings folded close to her back. She stepped closer until her shadow covered him. "You fight with me," she said. Her voice carried not command, but recognition. "I claim you, but you claim me too." The words caught him off guard. His chest tightened. "What do you mean?" Her golden eyes did not waver. "In my people's way, when one claims in battle, it is bond, not master, not slave, it is mate." Daniel froze. The meaning struck him like a blade. She had not pulled him from the ground as property. She had pulled him as partner. Her claim was not only protection, it was binding. "I didn't agree to that," Daniel said. His voice rough, his heart pounded, not from fear this time, but from the weight of her words. Her wings shifted, her face unreadable. "You saved me," she said softly. "Now you are part of me." The nest stirred with whispers. The other winged people watched them with sharp eyes. Some hissed, others muttered, but none dared to challenge her openly. She was a warrior of strength, and her choice carried power. Still, Daniel could feel their resentment pressing down like a storm. He looked at her, at the golden fire of her gaze, at the strength in her stance, at the strange pull in his own chest. It would have been easy to say no, to reject her, to walk away, but deep inside, he knew he was already tied to her, not by chains, but by fire, by the shared moment of survival. Daniel let out a slow breath. "I don't understand your ways," he admitted, "but I understand this. I will stand with you." Her eyes softened, her wings opened wide. Catching the light of the setting sun, for the first time, she touched him without claws. Her hand, cool and strong, pressed against his chest. "Together," she said. The moment was brief, but powerful. A bond had been sealed, not through words, but through battle. Night fell again. The survivors gathered around fires built high in the nest. Their chants rose into the sky, mourning the dead. Daniel sat close to her, the warmth of the flames brushing his skin. He listened to the songs, the harsh yet haunting voices that carried loss and pride together. The winged woman leaned close, her voice low. "The beasts will come again, stronger, they will not stop." Daniel stared into the fire, his fists clenched. "Then we prepare." She nodded, her eyes glinting in the firelight. "Yes, we prepare." For the first time, Daniel felt something strange stir in him. It was no longer only fear, no longer only survival. It was purpose. He was no longer a stranded traveler. He was part of their fight. Their war was now his war. Their survival was tied to his own. And as the stars spread across the sky above them, Daniel knew his life had changed forever. He had come to this place broken and lost. But now he had found something unexpected. Not only survival, not only a cause, but a bond with a winged warrior who had claimed him in midair. And whether he understood it or not, he had claimed her in return. The days after the raid passed in uneasy silence. The nest was rebuilt with branches and bones. The dead were mourned, and the wounded healed. Yet everyone knew peace would not last. The raiders would return, stronger, fiercer, determined to wipe the winged people from the cliffs. Daniel trained each morning under the burning light of the twin suns. His arms ached, his legs trembled, but he pushed himself harder. He had no wings, no talons, no sharp weapons borne into his hands. But he had something else. Resolve. The winged woman watched him with a steady gaze, guiding him, testing him, pushing him until his breath came in gasps and his body begged for rest. "You fight," she told him again and again, "but now you fight with mind." Daniel had begun to notice what the others did not. The raiders were not wild beasts. They moved with tactics. They struck in waves. They targeted the weak spots in the nest. He studied their attacks, their timing, their patterns. he realized something the winged people could not see through rage and grief. They were predictable. One night, as fires burned low and shadows crept along the cliffs, Daniel stood before the gathered warriors. The woman stood beside him, her golden eyes fierce. The crowd murmured in doubt, but fell silent when she raised her claw. Daniel's voice carried across the nest. "If you fight them the same way, you will die the same way," he said. "But if you change, if you strike first, if you fight with cunning, you can win." They hissed, some shouted in anger, calling him a ground walker with no right to speak. But the winged woman spread her wings wide, her voice cutting like thunder. "He fights with us. He saves. He is chosen." The murmurs fell to silence. Daniel stepped forward, his heart pounding. "We will not wait for them to come. We will take the fight to them, strike their nests, break their wings before they can rise." The warriors shifted uneasily, but slowly, one by one, heads began to nod. Their eyes glowed with something new, not only suspicion, but hope. When the dawn came, the air trembled with the beat of wings. Dozens of warriors rose into the skies. Daniel clung to the winged woman as she carried him, her talons firm but no longer harsh. The wind tore past them, cold and sharp. Below, the valley stretched endless. Ahead, dark shapes stirred in the cliffs where the raiders nested. The first strike was fierce. The winged people dived from the sun, their cries shaking the air. The raiders shrieked in surprise, clawing upward to defend themselves. But Daniel's plan held true. The attack was sudden, unexpected, brutal. The battle raged across the sky. Shadows clashed, blood rained. The winged woman fought with fire in her eyes, her claws tearing through enemy after enemy. Daniel hurled stones, spears, anything he could grip. His voice rose with theirs, a cry not of fear, but of fury. The raiders fought back with savage strength. Their leader, a massive beast with wings scarred from countless battles, rose above the chaos. Its eyes burned with hatred as it locked onto the winged woman. With a roar, it struck, claws flashing. She met it in midair. Their clash shook the heavens. Her wings strained, her talons cut. But the beast was stronger. It drove her back, dragging her downward. Daniel clung to her, the wind tearing at him. His mind screamed, but his heart burned with defiance. "No," he shouted, grabbing a broken spear from her belt. With all his strength, he drove it into the raider's chest. The beast roared, its wings faltering. The woman twisted free, her claws ripping deep. Together, they struck as one, her talons tearing, his spear thrusting, until the raider screamed its last breath and plunged into the abyss. The skies went silent. The enemy broke, their wings scattered, their cries fading into the distance. The winged people rose their voices in triumph. The battle was won. The woman carried Daniel back to the nest, her golden eyes locked on him. For the first time, her voice softened. "You are mine," she whispered, "but not as slave, not as prey. You are mine as mate, as warrior, as equal." Daniel's chest tightened. He met her gaze, steady and fierce. "Then I claim you too," he said. His words rang louder than he expected. The crowd of warriors fell silent, their eyes wide. The bond had been sealed in blood and fire, not only hers, but his as well. The nest erupted in cries, some in anger, some in pride. But none could deny what had been proven. The human had stood in their sky, had fought their war, had bled beside them. And in the end, he had not fallen, he had risen. As the sun blazed high over the mountains, Daniel stood with the winged woman at his side. Their shadows stretched long across the cliffs. He was no longer a stranded traveler, no longer prey. He was something new, a human bound to the sky, a warrior claimed and claiming. Together, they looked to the horizon, knowing more battles would come, but whatever waited, they would face it side by side.